I am standing at the altar of St. Jude's Cathedral, and in exactly 60 seconds, I am going to destroy the lives of everyone in the first 3 rows. The air in here is thick with the scent of 5,000 white lilies and the suffocating weight of 300 expectant gazes. My veil feels like a shroud. To the congregation, I am the picture of bridal perfection, Maya Thorne, the heiress who finally found her prince. To Liam, standing opposite me in a bespoke charcoal suit that I paid for, I am a prize to be collected. To Chloe, my maid of honor standing just inches behind me, I am the naive fool whose life she has been systematically dismantling for the last 8 months. But as the priest begins the liturgy of marriage, my fingers aren't trembling with nerves. They are steady. In the hidden pocket of my silk-lined skirt, the phone is a cold, hard weight against my thigh. It contains the digital wreckage of their betrayal, the voice notes, the photos, the laughter they shared at my expense, while I was planning a future for a ghost. I look at Liam's eyes. They are a beautiful, deceptive blue. He smiles at me, that practiced, charming tilt of the lips that used to make my heart skip. Now it makes my skin crawl. He thinks he's winning. He thinks the ring he's about to slide onto my finger is a collar. He has no idea that the vows I've written aren't promises of love, but the closing arguments of a prosecution. I take a deep breath, the expensive lace of my bodice tightening against my chest. The priest looks at me, waiting for the first I do. I don't say it. Instead, I reach into my pocket. The hook is set. Now I just have to pull.
2 hours earlier, I was a different woman. I was sitting in the bridal suite, a glass of vintage Cristal in my hand, listening to Chloe tell me how deserving I was of this happiness. We were laughing about a shared memory from 3rd grade. I looked at her and felt a surge of genuine love. Then, her phone buzzed on the vanity. The notification flashed, L, followed by a black heart. Can't wait to see you in that sage green dress. 1 more hour of acting, then we're home free. The world didn't explode. It just stopped. I knew her passcode. I opened the thread, and the archive of my own humiliation unspooled before me. It wasn't just a fling. It was a project. They had been together since the night of our engagement party. Liam had been using my family's connections to secure his firm's future, while Chloe had been feeding him every insecurity I'd ever shared with her in confidence. I found a voice note. She's so easy to manipulate, Chloe. Once the papers are signed, we'll move the offshore accounts. I didn't cry. My tear ducts felt like they'd been cauterized. I watched my reflection in the mirror. The woman in the white dress looked back at me, her eyes hardening into something predatory. I spent the next hour transcribing their words onto the cream-colored cardstock meant for my vows. I wasn't just writing a speech. I was building a gallows.
Walking down the aisle is supposed to be a blur of faces. For me, it was a forensic examination. I noticed the way Liam's best man wouldn't meet my eyes. He knew. I noticed the way Liam's mother was wearing a smug, triumphant grin. She knew. Every step I took was a countdown. The train of my dress, 12 feet of hand-stitched silk, felt like a heavy chain I was dragging toward the finish line. My father squeezed my arm, whispering that he'd never seen me look more radiant. He didn't know that the man he was about to entrust his daughter to was a parasite. I looked at the sage green dresses of the bridesmaids. Chloe stood at the head of the line, her face a mask of moved emotion. She actually wiped a fake tear from her cheek as I reached the altar. The audacity was almost impressive. Liam took my hand. His skin felt like parchment, dry and lifeless. He whispered, "You're the only one, Maya." The priest began the opening remarks. I stood there, a statue of lace and rage, watching the videographer's red light blink. Perfect. I wanted this recorded. I wanted every socialite and every business partner to have a front row seat to the execution.
Liam's vows were a masterpiece of fiction. He spoke of unwavering loyalty and a love that transcends the mundane. Then the priest turned to me. Maya, your vows? I pulled the phone out first. A murmur of confusion rippled through the pews. I didn't look at my mother. I looked at Liam. The confusion in his eyes was slowly being replaced by a flickering, animalistic fear. I do have vows, I said, my voice projecting with clarity. But as I was preparing for today, I realized that my own words were insufficient. To truly understand the union we are forming, we should listen to the words that have defined our relationship. I hit play on the phone, holding it to the microphone. Chloe's voice erupted through the Cathedral sound system. I hope she likes the ring, Liam. I picked it out, after all. Liam reached for the phone, his face a contorted mask of panic. Maya, turn that off. It's an audit, Liam, I said, stepping back, and you're significantly overdrawn. I began to read from the cardstock, every text, every lie, every description of their plans for my father's company. The Cathedral had become a courtroom.
The aftermath was a landslide. My father was the first to move. He didn't shout. He didn't have to. He walked to the altar, his presence like a dark cloud. The security will see you out, Liam. And don't bother going back to your office. The locks were changed 20 minutes ago. Chloe was sobbing now, real tears this time. She tried to grab my arm. Maya, it's not what it sounds like. I looked at her and felt profound boredom. Save it for the deposition, Chloe. You're dismissed. The guests were in an uproar. Some were filming on their phones, others were walking out. I watched the videographer, who was still rolling. I looked directly into the lens and smiled. I took off the engagement ring and dropped it into the silver chalice of holy water. A small, pathetic splash for a small, pathetic man. As I pushed open the heavy oak doors and stepped out into the sunlight, the limo was waiting. I didn't wait for the driver. I got in the front seat, put the car in gear, and drove away from my own wedding.
2 weeks later, the silence was beautiful. I was sitting on the balcony of a small villa in Tuscany, the trip I was supposed to take with Liam. I was alone, and for the first time in my adult life, I was at peace. My phone buzzed. My lawyer. The annulment is finalized. Between the fraud and the embezzlement evidence, he's looking at significant jail time, and Chloe is being sued for breach of fiduciary duty. I realized then that the betrayal wasn't the tragedy. The tragedy was the version of myself I'd had to be to love him, the woman who ignored her intuition. That woman was dead. She had been sacrificed on the altar of St. Jude's. I looked at my hands. They were bare of rings, but they felt powerful. I wasn't an heiress or a bride. I was the architect of my own reality. I picked up my pen and began to write. Not vows, just a list of things I wanted to do with the rest of my life. The first item on the list: never apologize for the truth. The audit was over. The books were balanced, and I was finally, gloriously, in the black.